So this morning we're going to be in Genesis chapter 49. Genesis chapter 49 verse 1 says, Then Jacob summoned his sons and said, Assemble yourselves, that I may tell you what will befall you in the days to come. So the title of this is Israel, which Israel is Jacob, Israel's prophecy concerning his sons. So he kind of tells them, he gives them an idea of what's going to happen to them, what's going to happen in their futures. In all honesty, he does not just tell what happens in their own lives. He tells way ahead. We see what happens when it talks about Judah, it's hinting towards Christ. That far ahead. Okay, so he starts out with the oldest. He says in verse 2, he says, Gather together and hear, O sons of Jacob, and listen to Israel, your father. So he uses both of his names in verse 2. He says, Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength, preeminent in dignity and preeminent in power. In other words, first. Okay? Some Bibles even use first, okay? But preeminent, he's first. Uncontrolled as water. Think about that. Uncontrolled as water. It just kind of runs wherever, doesn't it? It can be blown by the wind. It's uncontrolled. Uncontrolled as water. You shall not have preeminence. In other words, you will not be first anymore. You shall not have preeminence because you went up to your father's bed, then you defiled it. You went up to my couch. If you remember, several chapters back that Reuben went up and slept with, had sex with one of his father's concubines. Okay, I believe, if I remember right, it was Bilhah. Anyway, it was one of Leah or Rachel's handmaids. Okay. And then he goes on to Simeon and Levi. He says, Simeon and Levi are brothers. Their swords are implements of violence. Let my soul not enter into their counsel. Let not my glory be united with their assembly. Because in their anger they slew men, and in their self-will they lamed oxen. Cursed be their anger, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I will disperse them in Jacob, and scatter them in Israel. Not a very good report for these two guys, okay? Why did he do that for them?
When they killed the men at that town.
When Shechem took Dinah by force and had sex with her, they went in and killed all the men in the town. And then he goes on to Judah. Judah, your brothers shall praise you. Your hand shall be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's sons shall bow down to you. Judah is a lion whelp. Lion cub is what that means. From the prey, my son, you have gone up. He crouches, he lies down as a lion. And as a lion, who dares rouse? And as a lion, who dares rouse up? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until Shiloh comes, and he shall be the obedience of the people. So, and it's not done even on him. It says, and he ties his foal to the vine, and his donkey colt to the choice vine. He washes his garment in wine, and his robe in the blood of grapes. His eyes are dull from wine, and his teeth white from milk. Now, I can't say that I understand everything that it says there, but we can obviously see Jesus coming in that, can't we? Maybe at that time when he said it, they didn't understand it. I think they might have thought that Judah was going to rule to become a king or something was going to rule at some time, and they probably didn't understand. I don't know how much of that they understood. But we, looking back on it, we can see Christ. We can see Christ rode the donkey. Remember that? The donkey's colt into Jerusalem. It says that we believe that Christ is on the throne because the Bible tells us that, right? That Christ is on the throne and he is ruling today. He is all things. He has authority over all things, right? And so we would say that this was a prophecy, literally, about Jesus Christ. He goes on then, he says, Zebulun will dwell on the seashore, and he shall be a haven for ships, and his flank shall be toward Sidon. Issachar is a strong donkey lying down between the sheepfolds. When he saw that a resting place was good, and that the land was pleasant, he bowed his shoulders to bear burdens, and became a slave at forced labor. I'm not sure what that's, once again, it sounds to me like Zebulun's going to end up being a slave. And if that's talking about when and where, I don't know. Verse 16 says, Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Now we see that, if you look forward into Judges, we see some of that coming true. Okay? Dan shall be a serpent in the way. A serpent in the way. A horned snake in the path that bites the horse's heels, so that his rider falls forward. For your salvation waits, O Lord. As for Gad, raiders shall raid him, but he will raid at their heels. As for Asher, his food shall be rich, and he will yield royal dandies. Naphtali is a doe let loose. He gives beautiful words. Joseph is a fruit. Joseph is a fruit bough. Or is a fruitful bow or bough. Is that what does that say? Bough? Bough, yeah. Joseph is a fruitful bough. A fruitful bough by a spring. Its branches run over a wall. The archers bitterly attacked him and shot at him and harassed him. But his bow remained firm and his arms were agile from the hand of the mighty one of Jacob. From there is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. From the God of your fathers who helped you, and to the Almighty who bless you with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lie beneath, blessings of the beast of the womb, blessings of the breast of the womb. The blessings of your father have surpassed the blessings of my ancestors, up to the utmost bond of the everlasting hills. Now I gotta try to get the page turned here. May they be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of the one distinguishing among his brothers. Benjamin is a ravenous wolf in the morning who devours the prey, and in the evening he divides the spoils. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is what their father said to them when he blessed them. He blessed them, every one, with the blessing appropriate to him. Then he charged them and said to them, I am about to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephraim the Hittite, in the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought, along with the field from Ephraim the Hittite, for a burial site. There they buried Abraham and his wife Sarah. There they buried Isaac, his wife Rebekah. And there I buried Leah. The field and the cave that is in it, purchased from the sons of Heth. When Jacob finished charging his sons, he drew his feet into the bed and breathed his last and was gathered to his people. That amazes me that he talked to them. I mean, was it right then? Was he talking, carrying on a conversation and talking, and then he raised his feet up, laid down on the bed, and quit breathing? I mean, I don't know, but maybe it was a week or a month but the way that says it, doesn't it sound kind of like it happened right then? I mean, he was talking, he got done saying what he had to say, and he knew he was fixing to draw his last breath, so he called the boys in to tell them all this stuff, and then he sat up long enough to do that on the side of the bed, from what it sounds like, then drew his feet into the bed and laid back and just quit breathing. I don't know. That's the way it sounds to me, but it might, I might be misunderstanding it too, but yeah, that's just kind of, I think that's kind of neat. I don't know. Somehow he knew, seems like. Yeah. But anyway, so not all of those prophecies can do I know how to interpret. Okay, I don't know exactly what all of them meant, but I do know that I know some of them that make sense to me. And so, yeah. Any thoughts?
A couple of them made sense, and some of them didn't make much sense.
Right. Maybe that's because we just don't know the Bible well enough. Alright, so any other thoughts? Alright, well, let's close in prayer and we'll get our day going. Father God, thank you for this day, Lord. I thank you for all that you do for us. I thank you for your word. Father, I thank you that you are a great and holy God. You are completely sovereign over all things, even over our thoughts. That you are sovereign over the things we say and do. And Father, that you are completely in control of those things. That you are not guilty of causing us to sin or tempting us to sin, but that you are still able to be completely sovereign over the things we say and do. Father, I pray that you help impress that on our hearts, that you help us to realize your power and your might, your greatness. Father, we give you the glory for everything. That we give you the glory that you bought us out of bondage, out of slavery, like you did the children of Israel out of Egypt. That we would come to realize that we were slaves just like they were in Egypt. That Father, we would never, ever, ever been able to walk away from what we were. This myth of free will, Father, I pray you crush it. Help us to realize that the story of slavery in Exodus was to help us to realize that we are in slavery to Satan until you come along. And your Holy and your Son comes along and buys us, purchases us out of bondage in Egypt. Help us to realize that. Help us to understand that. Help us to, Lord, that we would, Father, we would understand that you call us not because of anything in us. Lord, I pray that you open the hearts and minds of those that don't know. Help them to understand that they would give you the glory, no one else. That they would come to understand all those things. Father, I pray you go with us today. Help us to get the things done we need to do. Lord, help us to seek you above all else, but we seek your glory, not ours. Lord, just forgive us where we fail. I pray in Jesus'